Okay.
Action.
So 57b on the bottom.
Amar Rav Huna.
Amar Rav Huna. Similar trait for Yud Beis Chodesh. A sign to know if an animal is actually a treifa or is actually not a treifa is to wait 12 months. Rav Huna is the student of Rav, right? I'll show you what that is. We're going to have him several times today. So this is Rav, the first generation of Menachem, Rav Huna. He took over after Rav. So he says that a sign for a treifa is to wait 12 months. We're going to question his opinion and we'll get back to it. Meisvei, it's not so clear. Meisvei, there's a Tosefta that says similar treifa. What's a sign if an animal is a treifa? Kol she'eni yeledes, if it can't conceive or can't give birth. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Eimer, Mishabachas v'hilachas b'yadu shikshera. If the animal becomes more healthy and stronger, then obviously it's not a treifa. Misnavna v'hilachas, but if it deteriorates, b'yadu shikshera, then you know that it's a treifa. Now, Rabbi or Rabbi Meir, depending on the girsa here, Eimer similar treifa shleishim yom. He says that a treifa is 30 days. That means that if the animal lives for 30 days, that means it's not a treifa. Normally a treifa can't even make it past the 30th day. Amrulai, they said to him, many treifas live 2 or 3 years. Okay, now, when you look through all of these opinions in the Brisa, so we have an animal that gives birth is not a treifa. We have if its health improves, it's not a treifa. We have if it lives a month, and we have if it lives 2-3 years. Those are the different opinions here. We don't have any opinion that says 12 months. So Rav Huna, who's the second generation Amayra, has no support from a Brisa, from a Tosefta, that gives us different opinions for when the treifa is. Not the Gemara considers
is also about is for female.
It would only
and
be a
male,
female.
And a male, Piskachuvas is a male time. Also considered a male too. And Piskachuvas is a male as well if you can't impregnate.
Very interesting. When you say Piskei Tshuva, you mean the Piskei Tshuva and Shulchan Aruch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
good, yeah. If David has a chiddush.
No, that's not a chiddush. I love this shit.
The Gemara doesn't mention anything about a male impregnating a woman, but he says that the Achronim say that the same thing would apply. That if a male can impregnate a female animal, that means that the male itself isn't a treifa.
We don't discriminate.
Okay, so in order to resolve the problem on Rav Huna, the Gemara says Tanaihi. It's a machlekes Tanaim. The Tanya, start in a brisa. This is talking about the house that had a corpse in it, and the corpse wasn't whole. And we said that the tumah that's in a tent, to make everything in that tent tameh, is only if the corpse is intact. However, if the corpse is missing certain amounts, so then it won't impart tumah to the rest of the house. So we said if there's a skull there that has a hole in it, or if it has holes that either one long hole, or if it has many holes that add up to the size of a doctor's hammer, so that is enough that it means that the skull is not missing, the skull is not intact, and therefore it won't impart tumah. And we established that same amount is enough to make something a treifa. That same amount missing is enough to make a treifa. Okay, so far we don't know anything. It doesn't tell us anything about our issue. Amar Rabbi Yosi ben Meshulam, Maisa be'ein bul. That's the other girsa, or be'in bul. I wanted to say it's in the anvil because we're talking about the hammer, but no. Maisa be'ein bul. It's a city. Be'echad shenifchasa galgaltai. Someone that his skull was opened up, or it was missing a piece. And they made a patch of a gourd. and it lived. So they took a gourd. The pumpkin it can get hard.
Right.
So they put it on as a piece of the skull, and that was able to be a patch for this person.
That's what you'd be able to live.
So we see. Okay, so far we don't have any time yet. Amalei Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says Misham Raya. You're bringing a proof from there that it can live and it shouldn't be considered a treifa. That's not a proof. That was during the summer. But as soon as it became the winter, it immediately died. So the cold got in and it died. Okay, the interesting thing here is that when we said 12 months, we actually mean 2 seasons. That's what the Gemara is saying. The 2 seasons are the 2 main seasons of summer and winter. So that's what we meant. That's what Rav Huna meant when he said 12 months. He means to go through the summer and the winter. Because if you can make it through the summer and the winter, then it's not a treifa.
Wow.
So we found the source for Rav Huna.
Is it human or an animal? His brain is being fixed up.
Well, the original brisa was a human.
It's a different. Kosher restaurant is different.
We're going back and forth, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a human.
So is this
Your
also
business.
establishing
Oh,
that the test of time, however long it is, human intervention can make the difference?
Well, we said that human intervention can affect it from becoming a treifa. And here we're saying that even with the human intervention, it wouldn't have lasted more than 12 months, because it would have only made it through the summer season. Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Rav Acha bar Yaakov is a contemporary of Abaye, but he's not on the chart. So Abaye and Rava is here. The reason, the way we know is he was the one that came to Abaye's yeshiva when there was a demon there, and Abaye didn't let anyone to invite him to the house, so he slept in the yeshiva. And every time he bowed, he prayed, the demon lost one head. The demon had 7 heads. So in the morning, the demon was dead. He bowed 7 times, all the heads fell off. Then Rav Acha bar Yaakov was rather upset with Abaye for putting him through that. Said, "You put me into danger if I didn't have this miracle." And Abaye thought that he was such a big tzaddik that nothing's going to happen to him anyway. So Rav Acha bar Yaakov says, "Halacha treifa yeledus u'mishabachas." The halacha is that a treifa can still give birth, and it can still improve, and it's still considered a treifa. So in other words, none of these tests are going to help. Amar Ameimar. Ameimar says, Ameimar is right down, I thought that, I claimed that Ameimar is actually a descendant of Rav through the daughters and daughters-in-law and the sons. Okay. Hani beyi the treifa. If there's an egg, if there's eggs in a treifa bird, so, in other words, the bird is going to die, but there's eggs inside. So shichla kama asira. The cluster of eggs that's there already when this occurrence happened that made it into a treifa got attacked, or it fell off a roof, or one of these things. So that's asar. However, mikan ve'elach. But from then on, the new cluster of eggs, Havalei zev zagarim u'mutter. Then it has 2 causes. Why? Because the mother bird is a treifa. What about the male that fertilized the egg? That wasn't. And Ameimar saying is that zev zagarim, when I have 2 causes for something, one of them is kosher and one is not kosher, it's considered kosher. Because we don't attribute all of its treifa to, it doesn't get it all. We look at the other side as well. Okay, the Gemara has a question on this. Eisvei Ravashi la Meimar. See, it fits well because Ravashi and Ameimar are slightly above Ravashi. So Ravashi is now asking him a question on his statement. Okay, B'shavin b'beitzes treifa surim pnei shegadla b'isser. This is, according to Rashi, is based on the discussion that we're going to have in a moment. If an animal that's a treifa gives birth, are you allowed to bring it as a sacrifice?
You said what?
So it's a machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer says that he can't bring it on the altar. Imagine, just Rabbi Eliezer is more strict. And Rabbi Yeshua says that you can bring it on the altar. We go back to our cases, V'shavin b'beitzes treifa, but they both agree that eggs from a treifa hen, she'asura, that's aser, mipnei shegadla be'isur, because it was grown in forbidden mother. So, what does Ameimar mean that after that it's permitted? Only the first cluster is forbidden. After that it's permitted. What do you mean? Here we have both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. These are the main Tanaim before the generation of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. Both of them will agree that the eggs that are inside the hen are forbidden. The Gemara answers, Hasan b'desaf namar, over there was no fertilization. It says it was warmed by the land. That's what it calls an unfertilized egg. So the Gemara says, V'lishnile b'shich lakama. He could have answered different. He could have said, V'shavim beitzes treifa she'asura, but they both agree that it's asur could have been the first cluster. In other words, the cluster of eggs that was there at the time when the hen became a treifa, when it was attacked. Over there, we don't say that there was another cause, a permissible cause. The Gemara says, no, it didn't want to answer that because imkein gadla, when it says it grew, should have said gamra mi ba'ilei, should have said it was completed. The fact that it says it grew be'isr, that means that at all stages of its growth it was forbidden, even if it was shich lakama, even if it was, in other words, if it would have been only shich lakama, then it should have used the term because it was completed be'isr. It should have said gamra. But if it's including every possible case, even a case where it started, then it should have used the term. Then it used the term gadla, which that's the term that it uses. So it means in all cases, not only the cluster of eggs that was there at the time of the occurrence.
Could you state over the factual case, these two clusters?
Okay, so Ameimar claims that if there's a hen that has a cluster of eggs in it at the time that there's an occurrence that made it a treifa,
Yeah.
at the time of the accident. So it says that cluster of eggs is forbidden, but the later clusters are permitted. We have a question on that.
Because it's no longer a treifa?
No, not because it's no longer a treifa, because the rooster that fertilized it is not a treifa, and we look at both sides. We look at the male and the female, and that makes it that kosherizes it. The male the
impregnate.
right.
It's kosher.
So
If there's no
we
male,
had
there's no male.
if there's no male, then it's a problem. Then it's a problem. That's what we learned from this. We had a question on it. We see that it's a treifa. We said that over there was no male. And that's the answer. So why didn't we say it was the first cluster? We said that's based because the term that was used makes it sound like we're referring to all cases, not only the first cluster.
Only takes 21 days.
Yeah. So it says that it takes 21 days from the beginning to the end. There's a big sugya in Shulchan Aruch about the eggs that are inside. At what point they're not fleshik? If they have the shell, if they're before the shell, because the eggs are. So in America you can't get the eggs.
Yeah, in Europe you can.
Yeah, I remember at your father's house.
You have to cash it. Consider
I mean,
inflation.
you have to salt it.
Yeah, salt it.
What's the difference?
No, if the eggs without the shell.
You can get them without a shell?
The little small things, big things, you know.
What they are when you shech the chicken. If it's a hen, you open it up. Inside there were eggs that were unlain.
Usually clusters. I like
Oh, so
clusters.
they didn't have the shell on them
They
yet.
don't have a shell. They're just like a yolk,
They look like orange clusters.
and they put them in the soup.
It's a delicacy.
It's,
Okay, so again, it's like
have you had? It's a little bit like
Sounds
rubbery.
like British cuisine. I mean, oof.
It's fleshik.
That and marmite.
Ah, I'll
Okay. Ella hadetanan. Rather, this is what that it was taught in the Mishnah. It's actually the Tanya. It says on the side. It was taught in a Bais of Vlad Treifa, the child of a treifa animal. Rabbi Eliezer Omer lo yikrav l'gam mizbeach. Rabbi Eliezer says it cannot be offered as a sacrifice. Rabbi Yeshua Omer yikrav. Rabbi Yeshua says it's not a problem. You could bring it. But Micah Mifligi, what are they arguing about? What's the machlekes here? The machlekes is b'shenitra fala b'seif ibra. That first the animal was a treifa, and then it conceived.
But we just said that if you impregnate.
So we said before that shechla kama was aser. The first cluster was forbidden, but anything after that was permissible, because we're basing that on zev. The father, the male counterpart here makes it kosher. So Rabbi Eliezer savers zev is aser. Rabbi Eliezer holds that the male counterpart isn't counted, and we consider just because there's a kosher donor here, so that's not that doesn't help. Rabbi Shua savers zev is mutter. Rabbi Shua holds no. If you have the contribution from the kosher side, so that helps. Gemara says, "Ihachi," if that's the case, that a meimer is going to be following Rabbi Yeshua's opinion, and this would, according to this explanation, that zev zegarim works. That if I have the mother is a treifa and the father is not a treifa, we're going to allow this animal to be accepted. Which, by the way, the halacha is usually like Rabbi Yeshua, so this would be very convenient for a meimer. But ihachi, if that's the case, adam miflagi legavaya liflagi blahedya. Why are they arguing about a sacrifice? It's much more basic thing, that discussion. Is it a treifa or not? They're arguing if you can offer it as a sacrifice. The same halacha applies to if anyone's allowed to eat it. So the Gemara explains Leidiacha Keichad Rabbi Yeshua. It wants to show us the strength of the leniency of Rabbi Yeshua. That Rabbi Yeshua is so lenient that not only is it kosher, but you can even bring it as a sacrifice. That even for the Beis Hamikdash, the Gavaya, to elevation, it's still permissible. The Gemara says, what about the other side? Rabbi Eliezer is so strict that it's not only can't you bring it as a sacrifice, but it's even a treifa. It should have said that, and it didn't say that. It only says Rabbi Eliezer says you can't bring it as a sacrifice. You want to show strength? Show strength in the chumrah, in the strictness. To show us that it's even forbidden to eat. The Gemara says no. This is a common phrase in the Gemara. It says koyach de teira adif. Koyach de teira adif means that it's more powerful to be lenient. And the explanation for this that's usually given is that because if we had a doubt and we didn't say any opinion, then we would be strict anyway. Mm-hmm. So where do you show real strength is in the leniency. But that means that it's really that's really the halacha. Because just to say that we're going to be strict, that you can do even if you don't know the halacha.
It's like in law, when you just strike out a clause, it doesn't show that you're so brilliant. If you can fix a clause, like if anyone can strike something out, anyone can erase something. Let's say no, to come up with a solution.
Well, what would that be in like a scenario? What do you mean to strike out a clause?
Let's say you say all deposits must be returned by whatever, and you just strike that. No, I don't like that.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a compromise.
Well, where we see this in our lives, and questions come up that Moshe Feinstein answered, for example, about who could marry and who could not marry, and Yukas took broad shoulders to
We have the depth.
come up with many of his solutions.
Right.
You had to have a lot of courage to do what he did.
You have to know your stuff too.
Know your stuff.
That's the point.
Yeah. No, but he was so sure of himself, which is great.
Took broad shoulders.
Right. Now, the truth is that Moshe was stricted on many things.
Oh, but
But he became famous for the leniencies. But he has a lot of stringencies as well.
We learn here in the Gemara how important the leniencies are.
The deal is to matter everything for a year. Then the Gemara.
Now, it says, this was quoted before already, but the wording was different. Before we said Vishavin. Here it says Umaydim. They both acknowledge, they both agree that the eggs of a treifa bird are forbidden. And the Gemara explains, B'desafna mi'ara, d'chad geirimu. Because it was warmed by the earth, and it's only one cause, that means there's only the mother here, there is no male. So therefore, we don't say, I have a zev gerim, we don't have Rabbi Yeshua's leniency. Ravacha savala Ravacha bar Yaakov. Ravacha holds like Ravacha bar Yaakov. Now, Ravacha bar Yaakov said that a treifa that gives birth is no proof. It doesn't mean anything. A treifa can yeledus and meshabachas. Now, where's Ravacha here? Yeah, Ravacha. No, that's Ravacha Breda Rabika.
What he means by this is it can give birth and still die within the period that we're looking at. Is
that means that it could give birth, and it's still a treifa. It doesn't show that it's not unhealthy. It can even its health can even improve, and it doesn't mean that it's not a treifa. It doesn't show anything.
They wasn't affected from the fall, actually.
Right. So, if you hold like Ravacha bar Yaakov, then all of our discussion makes sense, because we were talking about Shich Lakama, the first cluster, the next clusters, which ones are treifa, which that you can only discuss this if a treifa can give birth. So, umasni ledamemar b'hai lishna. Like the way we said. However, Ravina does not agree with Ravacha bar Yaakov. And he has to learn the words of Ameimar differently. So Ravina is down here. This Ravina or that Ravina. Let's say it's this Ravina. So he's going to learn the words of Ameimar differently, because he doesn't hold that a treifa bird can give birth. So we're going to have to adjust this. So he says it like this. Amar Ameimar, Hani Beid the Suffolk treifa. These eggs, that's in a Suffolk treifa. The Shich Lakama, that if it's the first cluster, in other words, it fell off the roof, we don't know if it's a treifa. Mashinalai, we wait. The first cluster, these eggs were already there. The facts that these eggs are going to be laying are not doesn't tell me anything. Will it be able to hold more eggs? That's the question. Ihadra vitana, if it will return and conceive or carry more eggs, so shayan, then we'll go back after 21 days. We'll go back and we'll permit those eggs that were there before. I don't know how they kept it fresh then. The Eily. But if not, if this is the last set of eggs that it lays, so then asir, and then they're going to be forbidden.
We have to wait 21 days.
You have to wait for the next one. Esir Ravashi la Meimar. Now Ravashi asks to Meimar. In other words, we have the same Gemara, but we just have the opinion is slightly adjusted here. That everyone agrees that it's asir. Both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua agree that it's usher because it carried eggs. The question over here is, the way Rashi points out, is that how is it carrying eggs?
If it's treifa.
It's a treifa. You just said that a treifa can't carry eggs. They both agree that a treifa bird, the eggs are not kosher. How did it carry eggs? Amalei hasim b'deshich lakama. That was when it became a treifa while it was carrying. That's the first cluster. Imkein gadla, if that's the case, why does it say it raised them, it grew them? Gamra mi bailid, should say it completed them be'isr. That was our problem before. He says Tani Gamra. adjust it and teach that it completed them. Just adjust the words. Ella had tanan, but this that it was taught. Vlad Treifer, Rabbi Lezer, Amala Yikrav, Legam Mizbech, Rabbi Shumar Yikrav, B'Maika Miflagi. We have a machlekes, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shua. The offspring of a treifa is allowed to be brought for a sacrifice. We learned before that the argument was when it was a treifa, and then it conceived, and then there was a machlekes here of zev zagorim. This cause and that cause, one of them is a kosher cause, one of them is a treifa cause, and do we say that the kosher cause will allow the offspring to be kosher? We can't explain that over here, because according to Ravina, a treifa animal can't conceive. So there can't be two causes. It has to be that it was conceived from beforehand. Now we're going to need a new machlekes. But what are they arguing? It had to be that first it was pregnant and then it became a treifa. Rabbi Lezer savar uber yerachimayu. Rabbi Lezer holds that the child is considered, the fetus is considered a limb of the mother, and therefore the mother's a treifa, the child's a treifa. Rabbi Yeshua savar uber lav yerachimai. Rabbi Yeshua holds that the uber is not considered a limb of the mother, and therefore it could still be kosher, because the mother carries it, but it's not considered an actual limb. The mother being a treifa doesn't affect the status of the child. It turns out that this is not an acceptable way of doing this, because we're going to hold that uber yerachimai, and we're not going to pass like Rabbi Lezer over Rabbi Yeshua. So this is the Gemara is pushing this through, but it doesn't actually fit with other. So
Uber is basically going after the father, not the mother.
We're just saying.
Or are you saying that Uber is not?
No, we're just saying that it doesn't become treif with the mother. We hold that if an animal gores another animal and Tom, you have to pay from the animal, the goring animal itself. We hold that you can take the money from the Uber as well. That means Uber Yerech Imai. It was the child that also did that act. So we don't hold like this. That we would hold like Rabbi Eliezer, which doesn't fit with our way we like to do this. I had to look into this once. The results were not positive, but there was a scenario where a woman was carrying a surrogate mother. She was carrying the eggs of a non-Jewish woman. She couldn't have children, so she couldn't conceive. So she was carrying. So the non-Jewish woman's eggs were inside this Jewish woman, and the children would need to convert. So I was trying to resolve if the woman could go to the mikveh while she's pregnant and convert them in utero. Now, if there was an actual convert that's pregnant, you can do that. Right. They go into the mikveh, the mother converts, and the child is part of the mother. Over here, the mother's not converting. I'm only converting the child. So it's a strange scenario, and we're trying to figure out a way that the mother should require a mikveh.
Should go to mikveh and the child
should be converted. And in the end, we weren't able to do it. The halacha was they had to convert afterwards. We weren't able to do it. But this would have been this discussion here. If the child is not part of the mother, if the child is part of the mother, was very involved in that discussion. Ihachi, if that's the case, that they're arguing about uber yerachimai, and they're arguing about if it's permissible for to be brought as a sacrifice. Discuss if it's kosher. It's coming to tell me the strength of Rabbi Yeshua. So show me the strength of Rabbi Eliezer and discuss a hedyot. Discuss if it's kosher. And Rabbi Eliezer says it's even treif. The Gemara says it's better to show us the strength of leniency. That's more of a strength. Okay, now the Gemara goes on. Umaydim vadai, beitas treifa. They agree that beitas treifa is aser, that the eggs of a treifa is aser. Now, according to this opinion of Ravina, it can't carry eggs. Gemara says b'deshich lakama. We're talking about the first cluster, that it became a treifa while it was holding it, while it was carrying it. My timer. What's the reason that it's treif? Gufahi. Because this is for sure part of the body. Now, in other words, when it comes to an animal, so then there's a machlekes if uber yerachimai. When it comes to a bird, the eggs are part of the mother.
Why making a difference? Usually, what by if is
Because the way the eggs are held inside, it's called mura begidin. It's considered. It looks like it's more closer to the mother's body than just a separate entity.
Than in the womb.
Okay.
The
Hilchasa. We had a quote somewhere before that any hilchasa in the Gemara is not from the Amirayim. It says v'hilchasa. The halacha is bezachar. When it comes to a male, kol shnei maser chedesh. It's a kasha on your. On your. Kind
I asked them. I remember when it was. I think
when it comes to a male, you have to wait 12 months to see if it's a treifa, to see if it survives. In other words, we're going to accept this. If it survives 12 months, it's not a treifa. Now, we're not supposed to let it sit for 12 months because we're afraid of mistakes. But if we did,
it's going to mix up with your cattle. Yeah.
If we did, then it's accepted. It's kosher. B'nekeva, if it's a female, then you don't have to wait. Kol sheni yeledes, only if it doesn't give birth. But if it will give birth, then we know it's not a treifa. Amar Rav Huna. Back to Rav Huna. Remember, we started with Rav Huna. Rav Huna said before that a treifa is 12 months. Another statement of Rav Huna. Kol beria she'im bayetzem eina meskayim yud beis chodesh. Any creature that doesn't have a bone, a vertebrae maybe,
What's in English? Oh.
It doesn't have a bone structure, like a worm.
Oh,
Invertebrate.
Sorry?
Like it just says insect or worm, but
Okay.
it's like an invertebrate they're talking about?
Invertebrate?
Right. So, you must have studied in high school.
A lot of information, a few things retained.
So it's not going to live for 12 months. Amar Rav Papa, Shmami no de Rav Huna. Rav Huna teaches us something important. Hadamar Shmuel. Let's just discuss that Rav Papa is down here. He's a student of Abaye and Rava, more a student of Rava usually. But he's going back, he's discussing a statement from Shmuel, which is way back at the first generation, that we're going to learn from Rav Huna. We're going to learn from Rav Huna regarding a statement of Shmuel. That Hadamar Shmuel, Kisus she'etliya be'iveh. Let's say you have a squash, that cucumber, whatever it is, it's that